Spartans, welcome back. Tyrant's Halo Infinite's legendary walkthrough. No saves, no deaths, you know the drill, and you've made it. You've made it all the way to 11. I can't do it on one hand anymore. Okay, so the Command Spire, that is your mission, and you have an old friend coming back, Adjutant Resolution, and he's pissed. Good luck with that, Spartans.
What's up everyone, it's the Tyrant here, and welcome back to my Halo Infinite Legendary Walkthrough. Today we're doing the mission, the Command Spire, and as I've done in previous missions for this walkthrough, I do have the Scorpion gun as a secondary pocket weapon that I will try to use as sparingly and as little as possible. And in the few instances that I do use it, I will try to give you alternative options. But this is the first mission in this walkthrough where I do not recommend having the battle rifle as a primary weapon. This is because there are no battle rifles to pick up in this mission, and there are no kinetic refill stations until you reach the boss fight later. Much later. So what weapon you start out with really doesn't matter, because the first thing you're going to want to do is grab a sentinel beam from one of the sentinels in this room. So when you drop down just to the left of the panel, you're going to see these two sentinel factories activate, and two standard sentinels will emerge. So go ahead and make sure your grapple shot is equipped. Grapple one and do what I call a grapple punch to go ahead and take out one, grab the sentinel beam, and then you should be able to dispatch the other sentinels fairly easily. There are two sentinel factories on the other side of the map. There will be one more standard sentinel that emerges, and a sentinel construct armed with a shock rifle as your final sentinel. With these guys knocked out, go ahead and refill if you can, if the other sentinels did not drop their beams off into the chasm. And once you do, you can go ahead and activate the control panel right here to proceed through the rest of the mission. So one thing to note for that beginning area right there, I don't know if it's only triggered by this or if the sentinel on the right, those, as far as those first two sentinels go, always does that. But that sentinel on the right, if I sort of backed up behind that beam a little bit, will always duck down and approach the platform. That way you don't have to worry about that sentinel's beam actually going off into the chasm. So that one should land on the platform after you grapple punch that particular beam. And then you will have a sentinel beam that you can use for these sentinels as well as the next ones you will be facing. So once you activated the control panel here, USB 27.0, we're going to go ahead and grapple over here. Be careful of the beam, it will kill you, and just follow this path right here to get to the top level, where you will need to plant a power seed to proceed further. It's very easy. I don't have to jump or anything like that. Just shoot the grapple shot in these places right here, and you can grapple right up. No issues. You won't get anywhere near the beam, and you should be in good shape. Up here, there are going to be a couple of sentinels. I think there's 4 total, so a couple of standard ones and a couple of constructors over here with shock rifles. Be careful, sometimes they will quote-unquote suicide and charge right at you. Yes, they'll charge right at you too. Okay, so it should be 2 shock sentinels, constructors, whatever you want to call them, and 2 standard sentinels. And the power seed is right over here. You can ground pound if you want to, or grapple punch, whatever you want to call it. Should be noted that on standard legendary difficulty, the grapple punch is a one-hit kill for non-shielded sentinels. So once you bring the power seed close to this central area right here, you are going to get a few more sentinels that spawn. One of them will have a shield, so be careful. The one with the shield also has a heat wave, which can be devastating to you, but apparently not so much when you're using it against other enemies. And this guy seems to have taken a liking to me, so I'll go ahead and try to get out of his way. There we go. That should be all of the sentinels here. So go ahead and load up. And when you have maxed out your sentinel beam ammo, go ahead and plant the power seed, which will activate the gravity lift. This next area is again symmetrical. You'll have a sort of an under area right here. And we're going to actually come back here in a bit. Notice those, or take note of those needlers right there. The mangler is another good weapon here. But you're going to have mostly grunts here and also a few skimmers. There are also a couple of jackal majors that have manglers, so be careful of them as well. So you're going to use this place down here, just be able to duck in real quick if those skimmers start to swarm. I believe the skimmers here there might be one with a shock rifle, but they typically have commandos. So they're going commando here. That's right, Tyrant said it first. So again, just sort of have that under area that you can retreat to if need be. If they try to swarm your location, you can always use your drop wall. And again, you should be fully upgraded at this point. Per the previous mission, once you finish the sequence, you should have all your Spartan cores upgraded. If not, you can always, since replayable missions are now a thing, you can go back and get any Sentinel cores that you have not received already. So once again, the Sentinel Beam is very powerful here, but it's not very difficult to take down skimmers in general as long as they don't blindside you or flank you. The Sentinel Beam is one of the most powerful weapons that you can get, especially at close range, so I would highly recommend using that, but you can use their own weapons against them as well. Once you've taken out any enemies that could potentially advance your way, go ahead and grapple up top. There's going to be one jackal with a mangler, and there's going to be 2 grunts. And it looks like there is one more skimmer up here too that decided to chicken out. So go ahead and take these guys out real quick. There's apparently one jackal that decided not to advance as well. If you want them to come your direction, you can usually shoot off a few rounds from whatever weapon you have, and that will get their attention. Looks like the grunts showed up and they didn't. Wow. Okay. So at this point, go ahead back down to that little under area where the lifts drop you off, where the gravity lift got you to anyway, and grab the needler. And the reason why I say this is because as soon as you activate the panel on the top level, 2 brute berserkers are going to charge you. And yes, you can use the scorpion gun here, but I'm trying to use that as little as possible for those of you who don't actually have it. The needler does tend to be the best weapon to take them out with, as they do not try to dodge the needles themselves, and 1 to 2 super combines will take them out on legendary. And despite the fact they seem to have very little armor, they're very resilient. So the needler is, in my opinion, the best weapon to deal with multiple charging berserker brutes. The mangler is a nice backup weapon just because it causes them to stumble as they're charging at you, so it will delay their advance long enough for you to get that headshot. The remaining enemies in this room will be grunts. There will be 1 ultra, and there will be 1 jackal major at the other end. So you can sort of take your time with these guys, and then on the other side, the next room, you should know how to kill jackals and grunts at this point, but in the next room, you will have 1 elite at the far end, 1 high-ranking elite. I don't know if it's a major or a general, but 1 high-ranking elite at the far end. You're going to have 2 skimmers, and you're also going to have a few grunts. You can technically skip the next room entirely. The teleporter will already be open, but I would recommend at least taking out the skimmers, and it wouldn't hurt to take out the grunts too. I pretty much always ignore the elite though. There's no point. But I do go into this with a commando as my primary weapon. It's excellent with headshots. Since you cannot use the battle rifle as extensively in this mission as you could with previous missions, it's pretty much just picking up what's available to you. Fortunately, what is available to you is fairly useful. So I'm just going to use my threat sensor here to make sure I know where the skimmers are, as well as any maybe stray grunts. It looks like that's an elite general, not an ultra. So I'm going to go ahead and just take out these skimmers right here while the elite sort of cowers and freaks out and just sort of hangs back. You do have a carbine or a pulse carbine over here if you decide you want to take out the elite, but you really don't need to. You can use your thruster pack, fully upgraded to sort of camo to the end right here, or you can just grapple shot your way to the portal and you should be fine. The elite won't follow you, or at least he's never followed me before. This next room will be empty, but the following room will have a bunch of skimmers, so the commando is really going to come in handy here. They are extremely vulnerable to headshots. Now, these guys are a bit grenade happy when it comes to their dynamo grenades, so I would recommend putting a drop wall here and just sort of taking them out this way. The grenades will not penetrate it, and neither will their primary weapons, which again will be mostly commandos, but I believe 1 or 2 here also have shock rifles. So just be aware of that. And it looks like we cleared the room out. So the commando is going to be a great weapon for you to use for a fair amount of this mission, at least until the sentinels reappear. So you're going to have additional skimmers in this room, along with other enemies. Again, just sort of take your time. I do prefer to use the commando just to take out any unshielded enemies here. It does actually work fairly well against grunt ultras as well, but if you want to get more creative and your secondary weapon slot is not being occupied by the scorpion gun, a good secondary weapon to use would be either the plasma pistol or another plasma-based weapon like the pulse carbine. So if you do start taking damage, just go ahead and retreat back to this area. I've never really seen them advance this far, so you should be in pretty good shape. But they, again, like I said before, they get a little bit trigger happy with their dynamo grenades, which are what I call dot weapons or damage over time weapons. So if you're caught in them, yes, you will keep getting damage until you step out of the blast radius. So there is one elite over here. Just be careful that if you're going to use these fusion coils as weapons, try not to accidentally hit them or hit the overhang that's right above you. That could cause some problems. Okay, so it looks like this room is clear. Next room is going to have a couple of skimmers and brutes. So again, same strategy as the previous room that was similar to this. Just hang back, use your drop wall, and just slowly take these guys out. And you should have plenty of ammo here to deal with these folks. And I'm just going to go ahead. I missed him, but I still technically shocked him. The grapple punch actually comes in handy quite a bit. So in this room, you're going to have multiple grunts. You have one ultra grunt here and one on the upper platform on the right-hand side. You're going to have a shielded brute on the far end. You're going to have a couple of jackal majors and I believe 2 additional non-shielded brutes. It's 1 or 2. But either way, you can use this doorway right here to sort of just take them out from a distance and take cover if you need to. The grunt ultra shields are not that strong. Yep, it is 2 brutes. I was right. So the grunt ultra shields are not that strong, so you should be able to take them out pretty easily with the commando as long as they do not jump back into cover too quickly. But you can use your threat sensor here just to make sure you get a feel for the room before you venture out. As for that brute at the end of the room, you can use a plasma weapon or a shock rifle if you want to. Another potential option is you can also use one of the fusion coils here to go ahead and at the very least damage his shields so that you can finish him off with a kinetic weapon like the commando. You can actually take him out with the commando as well. Just be aware that he has a sentinel beam. You can also use a dynamo grenade here too, but I would recommend trying to save those just because you're going to have another pair of berserker brutes coming up here. So just be aware of them. There's also another crate here with a needler, and you can use that against the berserker brutes. Keep in mind there will be 2 more berserker brutes, just like in the previous area. So if they advance on you too quickly, you can drop a dynamo grenade. Okay, so there's the needler, by the way. So it wasn't in that room; it was in this room over here. But you do have one that's not too far away that you can grab so you can take out these berserker brutes. But if they do advance a little too quickly for comfort, you can drop a dynamo grenade to sort of freeze them in place momentarily while you unload the needler. And once again, the mangler is a nice backup weapon just in case the needler, if you lose it or drop it. So here are the 2 berserker brutes right here. Typically they come out one at a time. And there's the second super combine right there, and those guys are down. So you can use the sentinel beam if you want to for the next area. There will be a skewer up ahead, which I would recommend for taking out the shielded brute in the next area, the first one that you come across. Other than that, that first little intro area is only going to have grunts. But you want to make sure you have something other than the skewer, because you only have a total of 4 rounds here, and there are more grunts than that. So I went ahead and weapon juggled that sentinel beam up there so I can use that after I'm done using the skewer. So you can just sort of quietly sneak up here, and that brute's going to be in the center. One shot should take him out, even though he's shielded. You can use the skewer to take out other grunts if you want to. I don't really use the skewer past this point, but it's a nice weapon to use against the shielded grunts, the ultras. So you can also use the fusion coils here to take out those ultras as well, or at the very least damage their shields. But they're all going to hunker down sort of right there in that central area, right behind that beam. So as you can see, that worked pretty well. Just make sure they don't shoot them out of your hand, because they can do that too. So make sure they're not actually shooting at you when you do use those fusion coils. On Legendary, they can do that quite often. So just a word of caution. So once these guys are taken out, you can start advancing forward. You're going to want to use these side passages. You can choose between left and right. It doesn't really matter. You're going to face grunts on either side. It's going to be one grunt, not in this doorway, but in the next one. So one grunt on either side. And I like to take them all out. And again, if you want to conserve ammo, the grapple punch will do quite well here. You really don't have to worry about any retaliation. Just make sure you don't get hit by a grenade. Like that guy almost managed to get a kill from the grave there. And in this next area, the Sentinels and the Banished will start to combine forces. Not what I like to see in a Halo game. I typically like seeing different factions actually opposing each other, but this is what we're given. So just be aware you're going to have regular Sentinels as well as shock rifle or constructors charging you here. I believe it's just constructors at this point, but they're going to mix and match a bit as this mission progresses, or at least in this particular area. Now I do like to use the shock, or not the shock rifle, the threat sensor here, just to make sure that I've cleared out the enemies. Now in this area there will be sometimes a brute with a skewer or a shock rifle. Other times it'll be an elite major, a red one. So just be aware before you get up there. He'll usually be right in the center, or in the wall right behind it. Obviously, if you have a brute with a skewer or a shock rifle, it's a little bit easier because you can headshot them. But with an elite, you have to deal with the shields first. But the shock rifle here will come in handy. And this section goes on for a few little segments right here. But do keep your eye on the skies, because Sentinels will make your life miserable if you're not careful. So you see another Sentinel factory right there. Just keep your eyes out. One of these Sentinels will be shielded. I think there may be actually 2 of them in this general area. And that's one of them right there. The shock rifle will take out the shield instantly. And then you can follow up with 2 additional rounds from the shock rifle. And then we see another Sentinel constructor right there. So take him out too. If you get too aggressive, they'll start to surround you. So hang back as much as you can. But the shock rifle is an excellent weapon here to use. That way you can keep it ranged. Sentinel beam is fine too, but it's usually better for closer range combat. It's more effective at least. So again, we're just going to hang back here. You've got more Banished. You've got another Sentinel sniper up there, the constructor. And you've got the shielded dude right here. So just be careful, because he does have a heat wave. So at close range, he can cause you problems. If he gets too close, throw a grenade his way, just to throw him off a little bit. And I got a little bit lucky there, but again, this is why you got to keep your eye on your radar. And we have another shock rifle Sentinel here, another constructor. And that guy's getting a little bit trigger happy over there too with his own shock rifle. So again, I would highly recommend deploying your threat sensors here as much as possible. By the way, that other shielded Sentinel typically hangs back behind that corner right there, but as you can see, he got a bit aggressive for that particular scenario. So just be aware. Oh, no, nope, I'm sorry. That was a second one. So there are 2 shielded Sentinels here. But as you can see, that one did not advance because we were far enough away. So he just pretty much, or it pretty much just sat there floating while I took him out with the shock rifle. So again, if you're not too sure if the area is clear, just drop your threat sensor and you can proceed forward. Now this next area right here does have another elite. I believe there are 2 skimmers over here. I think there's only 2. So again, kind of like with the previous area, if you want, as you can see, that teleporter's open at the other end, so you can just take out the skimmers. Okay, it looks like there are 3 total. But take out the skimmers, and then you can just bum rush the teleporter. You can use either, again, the fully upgraded thruster pack to get there with invisibility. I believe that's an ultra, by the way. Or you can grapple or use a combination of the 2. But as you can see, it's already open. If you're really quick, you can skip them all. But because the skimmers tend to be a little bit deadly from a distance, as opposed to most of the elites anyway, I tend to want to take them out first just to err on the side of caution. So now you're going to face another boss battle. This is the return of an old friend, our Monitor Adjutant Resolution, I think his name is. Whatever. Anyway, so this boss battle with him differs from the last one in the fact that he does have sentinels that will back him up. So what I would recommend is, as soon as these panels rise up over here, this is when I would recommend trying to make sure your back is against one of these grooves right here so that you don't get surrounded. Using a drop ball here is recommended, and as you can see, there are ammo refill stations if you need them. This is the first kinetic refill station that you'll come across in the mission. So if you are using something like the paddle rifle, there you go. But as you can see, I am using the scorpion gun here. There are other heavy weapons that you can bring with you, but this is the easiest way to take out a boss here. We did take him out fast enough that we didn't have to worry about his sentinel allies, but if you don't, they will show up. And you do want to aim right for the center right there, by the way. I've noticed that if you hit him on the side, especially as his health starts whittling lower, then it will have 0 to no effect on him. So you want to aim right for the center. And so the game kind of psychs you out here, making you think that was the end of the mission. It is not, even though it should be, because it's a boss fight. You still need to go up to the peak of the spire right here, and you're going to have a few different banished to deal with at the top. So I'd go ahead and recommend deploying your drop wall right off the bat, so you, those long-range brutes at the other end of the platform can't take you out. So you've got those brutes. You're going to have a few grunts here. I believe at least 2 of them are ultras. You're going to have some jackals as well. There are lots of heavy weapons up here, but what you want to keep in mind is that at the end of this encounter, you're going to have to face 3 phantoms. You're going to have to destroy all 3 in order to actually beat the mission. Now, if you couldn't already guess, I will be using the scorpion gun here just to dispatch them, but if you do not have the scorpion gun equipped, there is a rocket launcher on the other side, as well as a power refill station that you can use to refill it. There is also a skewer on the other side too. So you can use those weapons to effectively combat the phantoms here. But because this is at the end of the mission, and I just want to go ahead and get this walkthrough out here, again, the scorpion gun as my back pocket weapon is a very easy solution here. But once again, if you do not have the scorpion gun in tow, you can use one of these other power weapons to take out the phantoms. I did this in my full campaign and cutscenes video without the scorpion gun, so it's completely doable. But I would highly recommend just going ahead and using your threat sensor to make sure that you have not left any of these enemies behind. And I finally get to use the Ravager for some fun here. Why not? And for those of you who don't know, yes, the Ravager has 2 modes, the one that I'm using currently, and if you hold the trigger long enough, it sort of pulls energy out onto the ground for a dot effect, a damage over time effect against your enemies. So now that you need to deal with the phantoms, again, you can grab a power weapon like the skewer or the rocket launcher from over there on the other side of the platform, or you can use a scorpion gun if you do have it. So it's completely up to you. Scorpion gun's easier, but there's your first phantom. I do not believe these phantoms drop off troops, but I don't know because I have never let them linger around far enough or long enough for them to be able to do that. So that's phantom number 2, and there will be one more phantom And we're going to take this guy out real quick. And that is the mission, the Command Spire on Legendary. Well, hopefully this helped you out. There's your rocket launcher and skewer, by the way, if you didn't already know. And I hope this mission was useful to you, or I hope this walkthrough was useful to you for this mission. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on this mission. This one was obviously a lot easier for me than Nexus. We'll see how the next one, Repository, goes. But I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments on this in the comments section below. And I'd like to take a moment to thank each and every one of you for taking the time out of your busy day to sit down and watch this video. I do hope you enjoyed it and found it useful, and if you did, I hope you consider hitting that subscribe button for more great content right here on the channel. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all have an absolutely wonderful week. I'll catch you all right back here next time, and as always, I'm the Tyrant, signing off.
That's not good. Let's hope this is the last one. Another reactor? Please. Well, I guess that's done. We're safe. For now.
You sure it's okay if I do this?
If it's safe.
Or you'll delete me, right? Good luck with that. Yes, it worked. No, there's not a problem. 3, 2, 1. We're done.
It's never done.
Explain this to me. I waited 6 months. I've done everything you've asked. I was supposed to be deleted. You're the reason I'm still here. You. All of this, you could not have done it without me. None of it. I trusted you. Why can't you do the same?
You don't understand.
Try me.
Cortana.
He's gone. Dead. All that's left are echoes, and sooner or later they'll be gone too.
Will they?
Are you two alive? All the spires are shutting down. You did that, right? Did we win or what?
He's ready for pickup. You can leave me here.
I can't do that.
I'm not giving you a choice. Try not to get him killed too.
Okay, let's get out.
Chief? Chief? A Spartan killer. He doesn't stand a chance.
Track it.
Already doing it.
Open a gate. Find somewhere close.
It's not that simple.
Why?
Okay, it's kind of simple, but risky.
We save him or die trying.
There's a pretty high chance that could happen. It's hard to lock down the coordinates.